Welcome to Business Networking and Referrals. I'm Faithann Basore, founder of the Networker's Tour Guide. I believe every networking conversation holds an opportunity. You just have to know how to recognize it and create more of them. That's what this podcast is all about. Let's get started. This week's episode is a coaching episode, and I'm welcoming Michelle Spurlock with Spearhead Realty to the podcast. Michelle, thank you so much for saying yes and volunteering to come on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
So Michelle and I got connected recently, what's been about 6 months, and I think we met at an OKC Women in Business coffee. And she is a member of Premium OKC Networking, so she's plugged into the networking community. And I see her doing a lot of outreach online and really trying to connect with people in the trades and referral partners. So, Michelle, you're doing a really nice job of getting yourself out there and making the right connections while you're building your clientele. So tell me what you've been able to do so far in the way of getting like vendor lists together and things like that.
Thank you. So, quick little background information. I've been business owner for over 20 years and in different arenas. And so, learned a long time ago how valuable relationships are with people in your industry and in surrounding industries. I've always loved to connect and network with people, big on getting involved in different groups, participating in different things. And I feel like when you can create relationships and relationships that last and make a difference, that's where it is. Because we all want to do business with people we like, know, and trust, right? I believe that it's always better when you can work with people you know. So I've spent a lot of time now that I've gotten involved in real estate, building that base of working with people that are in the field in one way or another, whether they're another realtor or whether they are a roofer or whatever trade it may be, and just trying to connect, build a group there that helps each other and helps feed each other's business. So I think that that's a very valuable thing for myself. I'm not somebody that wants to or excels well at running out and doing a lot of cold calling or door knocking or anything like that. So I rely more heavily on the people I know and on building those relationships. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, that's a great place to start is building the relationships with the people that you're going to need as you gain clients. You're going to need good roofers and good home inspectors and good mortgage people, and they're going to be knowing people too that may need to buy or sell. So I think let's start with narrowing in who you want to look for when you're asking for the referral. Who do you want the room to look for? And you were mentioning earlier before we started recording that you kind of feel a little bit like you're all over the place when it comes to introducing yourself during that pitch time. So what I usually tell clients is, what's your ideal referral? If you had it on a platter, a silver platter, what would that person look like?
I would say in an ideal referral, anyone who deals in any kind of level of sales, they want somebody that is decisive, somebody that is the decision maker, is ready to go, knows what they want, understands where they're at and what meets their needs, and is ready to go. So that's kind of the ideal, I would say, in terms of the type of person you're looking for.
So are you looking for a homeowner that's not indecisive, but that's decisive and ready to move forward?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I know it sounds pretty basic. It sounds pretty general, like, oh yeah, that's a given, right? But there's a lot of people that, maybe they think they're ready, maybe they don't know if they're ready, maybe they're not even sure if they are approved or can be approved, or there's a whole lot of unknowns because once you start diving into, hey, I want to buy a house, there's a lot of hoops you jump through and a lot of different, things that you deal with. So there's a lot of those questions to answer.
Well, and you said this may be common knowledge, or I can't remember exactly the phrase you used, but it's actually, you're the first realtor I've ever asked this question where the answer is, I'm looking for somebody who's ready to make a decision. So that's you.
Really.
That's
What
unique. Yeah. So we
can I
can,
ask you? What kind of answers do you get?
well, sometimes it's anyone who wants to buy or sell, and that's where I'm starting from. Oh, well, and then I do generally find that realtors generally would prefer listings over helping someone
Yeah,
buy.
I can give you my take on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it too depends on the market. But sometimes I think, and I could be wrong, but sometimes I think it might be easier to deal with the listing side. Once you've got it listed, of course, you're promoting it and doing those kind of things, but you're kind of just waiting for, that buyer to come along and someone else is responsible for bringing those buyers. But sometimes it's easier. This is just me, and you might get a whole different answer from a different realtor, but I feel like it's easier for me to find people that might be wanting to sell their house, easier to find those people than it is find people that are wanting to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are wanting to sell, they don't have to worry about getting approved, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go through, unless they're going to turn right around and buy a house, they don't have to worry about, oh, I need to get a pre-approval, or what can I afford or whatever. They're going to be the ones getting the money. So they don't have that problem. So it's easier to deal with in that way. You're not have to worry about that financing. Your main thing that you need to be able to do and do well is help give them the advice to negotiate things in a manner that benefit them and that makes sense for everyone involved so that they can get the deal done and get it closed.
And I would think that a seller has more at stake. They lose more if they back out of a deal or if they change their mind. Where a buyer, it's like, well, we're looking. And then maybe they stop
Yeah,
looking. There's nothing at stake for them to stop looking. Whereas a seller, there's a lot at stake for them to take their home off the market.
there can be. Yes.
Yeah.
And they've already made that decision. It's one decision. They made that decision. They're selling their house. It's on the market. We're good. But a buyer, I kind of like this house. Well, I don't know. I like this one. Or, there's so many other options, right? And so many other potential factors at play. And if you're not good as a realtor, if you're not good at controlling the situation and helping them understand how to be directed and how to make the decisions that are best for them, then they will have you running all over the world to find what they think they want, but they don't know that they want, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's about setting those boundaries too. And sometimes in sales, we don't like to set the boundaries because we're afraid to tell somebody no.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always the best thing in your interest or their interest to tell them yes to everything.
Yes.
So it's about determining what makes the most sense for where they're at. They're looking at you to be the professional there. You're not making the decision for them or telling them what decision to make, but you're helping guide them into what makes sense for them.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to find out everything and anything you possibly can about them and about their situation.
Okay. So we can go the direction of we're looking for that seller who is decisive. We can go that direction for your pitch.
Hmm.
How do you think about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
Or even a buyer that's decisive, that knows exactly what they've gotten approved. They know exactly what they're looking for. They know what area. They know all those things.
okay.
So,
And then I think I heard a little bit of gold there just now when it comes to what sets you apart. So let me write that down before I forget.
Okay, cool.
Let me tell you just what my clients have found the most helpful when we're developing a pitch. First of all, it doesn't have to be we're not writing this in stone. It's not the 10 commandments. So it can
Sure.
change. Okay? So what I tell my clients to do is we're going to describe one person. We are not going to try and jam pack everything that we do into one pitch. So we don't have a star studded pitch. We have a star and a supporting actor or actress. We don't have star studded pitches. I know that you are looking for buyers and sellers and even investors when we're coming to the room for them to help find referrals for us. We need to paint a picture of who we're looking for so they can imagine somebody in their mind, and that's going to help you stand out and be memorable. So I would start with a testimonial, and then I would say something like, what I'm looking for in a good referral is the family who has made the decision to list their home, and they are doing things like saying things like. So, what are they doing and saying? And we want to pull in this decisiveness aspect because I think it will be different. I mean, I've never heard a pitch around that aspect of the process. I've heard a lot of pitches around VA buyers or buyers, sellers, downsizing. I've heard all that, but I've never heard quite this angle of I want to work with somebody. An ideal referral for me is that homeowner who is ready to do what it takes to get the house sold. Do you like that language?
I do like that. I do like that because also anyone that knows me at all knows that I'm a to the point person. I'm not unkind about it, but I'm like, "Hey, here's the reality, right? Here's where you're at. Here's what you need to consider or whatever." So, I'm not just what I would consider kind of wishy-washy about it, if that makes any sense. So, I like to work with people that want that type of help and guidance.
You might also encourage the room to listen for language that their friends and family. I'm looking for the friend who is decisive, and once they've made a decision, they're willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard to see the end, and they trust the professionals who help them along the way. So now
I like that.
you're really painting a picture of like, hey, I want someone who's just going to say, okay, I trust you. Now, not let you steamroll them, but not question
Correct.
every little tiny decision that you're going to, or recommendation that you're going to make. It baffles me why anyone would ever try and sell their house by themselves. Like that's a special kind of confidence. Why would anybody
Yeah,
think they know enough about any of this to do it themselves? But anyway, that's how I
yeah.
would start. And then we want like a sentence or two that they might be saying. So, what would this confident, willing to work hard, sees the end in sight, is going to trust you? What might they be saying as they're trying to decide, as they're looking for a realtor, or as they're talking about selling their house? What might they be saying?
So, I learned something a long time ago and I went through Sandler training. Have you heard
I've
of that or
I've
gone
heard
through
of
that at
it.
all?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. We learned that selling is really based on emotion. And if you think about it, most any kind of decision you've made when it comes to sales, and especially if it's a large decision like a house, maybe even a car, something like that, it does become a very emotional thing, right? You don't just look at it from a transactional standpoint. You go to the store and you buy your groceries, that's transactional. Although, you might be like, hey, I love chocolate, so I'm going to fill my cart full of chocolate, right? But there's other things centered around this. I think people, for the most part, make those decisions based on pain more than they do pleasure. So we might be hearing things like, I'm really frustrated with the fact that I'm so close to my neighbors. I'm really frustrated with the fact that I have such a small house. I've got kids growing up that need a bigger room, whatever the case may be. If I, or even you, as someone maybe listening that might be wanting to try to help refer people to me, if you hear someone, whether it's one of your friends or family, that come up and they say, "Oh my gosh, we need a bigger house. We've just got too much stuff. We've got too many kids. We've got too many dogs, and we're really looking to get out of here, go somewhere else." Or maybe they're like, "You know what? We've been renting for years and years, and we're tired of that. We're tired of putting our money into somebody else's pocket. Let's put it into our own, right? And have our own house." Somebody that's like, "Oh my gosh, I love my yard. I've done this and this." They're not necessarily gonna be selling, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's not what you're listening for, that you're gonna hear that. I've had people ask me some similar questions to this before, and they've said, "Do I need to find out if people are buying or selling?" I said, "Well, yeah, but you're not always gonna find that out." One thing that you can address it from is, "Hey, who do I know that just got married?
Hmm.
Who do I know that is having a baby? Who do I know that just graduated college? Maybe they're moving to go work somewhere. Who do I know that is downsizing? Maybe sadly they've lost a loved one and they need to, sell the home." There's a lot of those type of things versus who do I know buying or selling.
Right. That's what leads up to the
Right.
activity that leads, or those big life changes that lead up to the
Correct.
need for something different or better. And the tendency, because you listed several of those. So the thing I would caution you against is listing all of those. I would pick one. So you
Okay.
mentioned neighbors that are too close. So make your whole pitch about that. And let's paint a really nice picture of the frustration that someone would feel if their neighbors now are starting to really get on their nerves. We want to paint a picture of
Mm.
that. Again, you don't have to use this indefinitely. You can use it for 4
Yeah.
weeks. Now you're gonna switch it up,
Yeah.
and you're gonna talk about the couple that just got married, and
Sure.
drill down when we always put in, they'll be saying things like that's that phrase, you need that. They'll be saying things like, they'll be feeling like, they'll be doing, and like you said, it's not they'll be looking to sell their house. No, we don't want them to send those people to you when they're quote unquote looking to sell their house. We want those
Correct.
people to send their people to you when they're complaining about their neighbors,
Yeah.
because that way you can get
Yeah.
in before anyone else. And so you have to help people know what that language is. Because, like you said, it's rare that people will walk up and say, "Do you know a realtor?" But at the birthday
Mhm.
party, at the barbecue, they might be saying things like, "Man, if my neighbor wakes me up one more time, I mean, you're going to have to put me in a straitjacket because I don't know what I'm going to do." That's the time when you say, "Have you considered listing your home? Would you be willing to have a conversation with a realtor that I trust?" So that's the language you need to give the room to say when they
Very good.
hear. And then we can weave in that also that decisive, I want someone who is tired of their neighbors, and they're the kind of person that when they decide something, they're willing to roll their sleeves up, work hard, and trust the professionals who are going to come alongside them and help them do the hard thing. That's a beautiful pitch because it paints a picture.
I love it.
Okay. Now, when you were talking about buyers, you'd
Mhm.
mentioned, someone asked you what sets you apart, and you're having a little bit of like, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Is that kind of the gist of what we were
Yeah.
talking about? Well, here's something you can tell them. And these are your words, okay? I'm not making anything up. You can say, what sets me apart is that I understand the importance of giving buyers a clear roadmap when it comes to what kind of homes they should be looking for. And I'm willing to put boundaries in place so that their time is not wasted.
I like that. I'm gonna have to listen to all this and, like, go back and write it down.
Well, I'm gonna send you the transcript, and it's gonna be all pretty. It's gonna be all, like, laid out. Yeah. I would say that.
I love that.
I think what happens when we get that question, "Well, what sets you apart?" What happens is our amygdala starts to get bigger, which is the center in our brain that says, "Danger, danger, danger, I'm not good enough. No matter what I answer, it's not gonna be good enough for this person." And then we start to really cut off our answers. But when you were describing about your buyers, you weren't answering that question. And so your amygdala wasn't screaming at you. You were able to just talk. And then now we say, oh, well, that sets you apart. That would be something that I think would be a very good quality in a realtor. You're not the kind of realtor that are going to let buyers waste a bunch of their own time.
Right.
I'm sure that's a quality that not all realtors have.
That's very good. That's a good way to put that too. One thing I have continually caught myself learning and doing as time has went on, because I have done that, and we all have. We've all had things that we're like, oh my God, I wasted so much time and effort on that. And just learning from those things where we can go, okay, you know what? It's not even just about me. I don't want to waste somebody else's time on those things either. And at the end of the day, are they going to look back at the experience and go, my gosh, she drugged me all over the planet? And then we finally ended up here. Whereas if I had asked the correct questions on the front end and found out all the correct information and set those boundaries and said, we're going to do this and this and this, then I would have directed them the right way to begin with.
Mhm. And maybe your pitch too, if you wanted to do for a buyer. And remember, we're going to have a star. So if your pitch is about a buyer, we don't drift into the seller land. We stay with the buyer. Maybe then you could include some language like, "I'm looking for that friend, that I mean, you take her dress shopping and she's in there for 2 hours and she's talking about looking for a house and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, who's going to be able to put up with her?" So now you become like the solution to even a personality thing. Like, so maybe you're not looking for the person who is decisive in the buyer, you're looking for the opposite so that you can be the one that reins them in a little bit. You could think about that too.
That's true. Hmm. That's a good angle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now I have one more, like just a little bit of juicy nuggets for you, or one when you're talking to people. So this is, it's very important. You mentioned in the earlier part of this episode about how important it is to build relationships. So what I'd like for you to try and do the next time you talk to somebody and you're just having a regular conversation, I want you to think, what are some questions that I could ask where we could start on the outside? Think about a cinnamon roll. We start on the very outside. Can you see the outside of the cinnamon roll? And we cinnamon roll our way into the gooey middle. And the gooey middle is, listen, when you hear about people getting married, I want you to think of me. But we don't start that way. Like that's a little awkward. Hi, I'm Faith Ann. When you hear of people getting married, I want you to think of me. But you could start asking questions about just marriage in general. How was your wedding? Did you get married in a church or did you go down to the justice of the peace? There's so many things around marriage and weddings that you could start asking that person about. That's not direct, but it spirals into that. And then at the end, you could say, well, a really good referral for me actually is those people in your life that are getting married. And that's all you have to say and just see what happens. So that's a little bit of a tidbit.
That's a good idea. I like that too.
Yeah, because some people are very willing to let you lead the conversation. They're just willing. They're like, whatever you want to talk about, let's talk about that. Now, you never want to fight anybody for the lead. So if they're just hell bent on talking about their dog, then we talk about the dog. But if they're going to let you kind of lead the conversation, then you get to pick what you want to talk about. And wouldn't it be nice if you could talk about marriage and weddings and find all about how they got married and where they got married, and you share where you got married? And at the end, you just kind of plant that seed so that they may not know to think of you whenever they hear people getting married. They're too busy thinking about the 10 steps before that. But you're thinking, but also, hey, that might be a good introduction for me.
That's good. Very good.
Yeah. Well, this has been really fun. Oh, I'm asking people a new question. I feel like we kind of talked about this already, but here's the last question I like to ask my guests before I say goodbye. And I will let you tell the listeners where they can find you, and I'll put all of your links and things in the show notes. So here's the question. As a client, when they can get on board with what's the one thing that if they'll get on board with you about early on in the process, everything goes smoothly?
Quite honestly, I think it starts with them knowing and understanding where they're at in the process and where they are financially with what they can do and want to do. I will immediately ask them those types of questions and I will send them to a lender. That way they can begin that first step before we continue moving on with the others, because there's no point in me finding out their dream house and trying to send it to them if for whatever reason they're not ready to be able to take that jump. So, yeah, we always start there. So, first things first. So, I would say if they can know this, it helps the process to go a lot smoother.
That's great. Yeah, and it tells you how motivated they are too, doesn't it? Like how quickly are they calling that lender? And how quickly are they
Yep.
supplying all that the lender needs for the transaction and all or for the
Mhm.
approval? Yeah, that's a great
Yep.
answer. Well, where can people find you, Michelle?
Your listeners are welcome to email me at Michelle, Michelle, Lee, Lee, dot Spurlock, Spurlock, at gmail.com.
I'll put that email in the show notes. And listeners, if someone's asking you the question, well, what makes you different? Don't overthink that. I think that
Yeah.
instead of trying to think about what makes you different, what I would do, listeners, if I were by myself, like if I just had someone asked me that at a later date, I would just record myself talking about my business for a while and then listen back and see if something jumps out. It doesn't need to be something big and grand. And it's those little things that we all do well that move everything forward. And Michelle has something that she does very well. And so the right kind of people are really going to enjoy her special way of saving buyers time in this just simple answer that she gave. And I think it's wonderful. And I
Mm.
thank you for being willing, Michelle, to come on and kind of talk to me about this so other people can learn from our discussion.
Yeah, yeah. Quick little note too. I'm thinking about how they're contacting me. I don't know if a phone number would be better.
You're welcome to give a phone number too. That's perfectly fine.
I think anyone that needs to contact, it's a quicker response for me.
Okay.
Anyone that needs to contact me can either text or call 405-204-7266.
Okay. And when you do reach out, listeners, make sure you tell her, hey, I was listening to your episode on Business Networking and Referrals podcast. That'll be good for both of us. Thanks again,
Yes.
Michelle.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And listeners, go and network. I'm rooting for you.